How's it going, everyone? We're back with episode 2 of the podcast. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about the MLB, and specifically the World Series and the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to then dive into the Toronto Raptors, and finally, we're going to talk a little local news and the Kitchener Rangers. But first, I have some exciting news. I want to thank everyone who suggested names for the podcast. I've decided to call it Instant Replay because pretty much what we're going to do every week, we're just going to go back and recap or replay everything that's gone on in the sports world, hence the name. So thank you to everyone who submitted names, but we're going to call it Instant Replay. So first up today, I want to talk about the World Series and really how badly the Mets ended up screwing up their opportunity that they were given. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I did a terrible job of predicting this World Series. The only game that the Mets won, Game 3, was actually the one that I thought they were going to lose. The only game I thought they were going to lose. I thought it was going to be the complete opposite. I had the Mets winning in 5, losing Syndergaard's start in Game 3, but it actually turned out to be the complete opposite. And pretty much what happened was the Mets just didn't take advantage of the opportunity that they were given. The Royals really only had two key advantages over the Mets in their defense and their bullpen, and they managed to exploit these so incredibly well. And the Mets just couldn't handle it. I mean, if you look at all the games that the Royals won, they were decided in the late innings. Apart from one of them, they were decided late innings or extra innings. And what it came down to was poor defensive play by the Mets, and then the fact that they just could not close out a game. And once Kansas City was kind of able to get deep into their bullpen, really the Mets had no chance to come back and win. It was just a terrible effort overall from them. But I want to really highlight what happened in Game 5 because I thought that was an absolute mess. So obviously you had Matt Harvey, the Dark Knight. He was on fire, lighting up the Royals through 8 innings. Dude looked pretty much untouchable. And then kind of an incident happened in the Mets dugout, where pretty much what happened was Harvey was approached by the Mets pitching coach, who was about to tell him he was going to get taken out of the game. And Harvey pretty much said no. I mean, he wanted to go back out there, finish off the game. So he ended up going to manager Terry Collins. And Collins let him go back out for the ninth, and the rest is history. The Royals ended up getting 2 men on, including 1 run against Harvey. And then Familia couldn't close out the game on a very good base running heads-up play by the Royals, I will say. But it just turned into a mess overall. They didn't really know what to do. It's as if the inexperience really cost them, I think. So I think in that case, I think the blame is not only on the players but also on manager Terry Collins. I mean, he's got to be a little smarter in that Game 5 management. You know you got to get a W. You know Harvey's been pitching well, but you have to turn it over to Familia. You got to give him a chance to get 3 outs. Especially the way it hadn't really been working out for him. You got to give him a chance to kind of get back into the series, maybe gain a little bit of that confidence back, and they just didn't do that. I mean, if you want to send Harvey out, if you want to kind of keep that relationship strong with your player, what you should have done is, after he walked the first batter of the inning, then you bring in Familia. You let Familia work with a 2-run lead. You make sure the tying runs are the ones that Familia actually faces, and not the tying runs do not appear on base when he comes into the game, which is what ultimately happened. The walk ended up coming around to score on a double, and Familia had to come in with no outs, runner on second, and it just turned into a bit of a mess for the Mets. And obviously the Royals were able to take it later on in extra innings to win the World Series. But really, I just thought it was a bad overall series for the Mets and their management, their playing, their defense cost them greatly. I know it was just bad overall team effort. And Familia, what can you say about him? 3 blown saves. I mean, the last one was a little unfortunate in the situation he was brought into, but really it was just not a great effort overall. I was very, very disappointed with it. But I will say congratulations to the Royals, an excellent ball club. I mean, I saw today that Alex Rios, they decided not to pick up his $12.5 million option for next year, which is pretty incredible for your number 9 hitter. The fact that he had a $12.5 million option, so it just goes to show how deep that team was. So congratulations to them. But again, very, very disappointing from the Mets. So next, just a little bit on the Jays. So obviously, most people have seen they picked up their option on R.A. Dickey, Jose Bautista, and Edwin Encarnacion. But the big news Alex Anthopoulos not coming back. Definitely going to hurt this ball club, I think. I think he kind of embodied what it meant to be Toronto as Canada's team. Obviously, a Canadian general manager helped with that, and he kind of knew and felt the pressure that this team was under, and kind of helped to right the ship with some of the trades he made. They weren't all great for sure, but I think overall he did a fantastic job, and it's going to be sad to see him go next year. So Alex, all the best to you. It was a great ride. Thanks for bringing the excitement back to the city in terms of baseball, and I wish you well, no matter where you end up, because I know you're not going to be unemployed for long. So thank you for that. In terms of free agency, we're going to talk a lot about that next week. Some more exciting news, I should say. We're going to have a guest speaker on next week's podcast. So make sure you check it out. We're going to be talking about some free agent landing destinations along with a whole bunch of baseball. So it should be very, very exciting. So make sure you check out next week's podcast for our guest speaker. So next, the Raptors have absolutely looked fantastic over the first 4 games of the year. I don't think anyone saw a 4-0 start coming. Obviously, the first one in franchise history. But it's really weird because it's the opposite of what you think a Raptors team would be in terms of maybe last year, even the year before that. I mean, they're getting it done defensively, which is really, really weird to think about based on the kind of not the motto, but the mojo of this team over the last couple of years. Obviously, Dwayne Casey is a very defensive-minded coach. That's where he came from in Dallas. He was the mastermind of that defense, but I don't think anyone saw the defense being this good this quickly. Obviously, the first game against the Pacers, that's really all they had going for them in the first half. They were terrible offensively. They just really couldn't score a basket, and that's what you're going to find when you have a lot of defensive-minded players, especially early on in the season. But I think it's really exciting for this team. I mean, defense does win championships, no doubt about it. And through the first 4 games, they've managed to hold opponents under 100 points 3 times, which is fantastic. I mean, the only one is when Boston kind of made a late run in that second game to score 103 points. But the defense has looked awesome. In terms of kind of what's helped that, I think everyone's kind of bought into it. I think the new faces definitely help. DeMarre Carroll's been fantastic at that 3. It's the first time that Dwayne Casey has really had a true number 3 to kind of throw into his lineup. I mean, no disrespect to Terrence Ross, but that's just not his position. So I think it's exciting for Casey to kind of have that lockdown defender, but also someone who can help on the offensive end. He's really developed his game. Obviously, did not have a great game last night, but he's doing so much more than just what's on the stat line. He moves so well away from the ball, and one of his MOs in Atlanta was definitely his ability to kind of make room for himself and get the ball and shoot. I mean, he was a catch and shoot type of player. Now he's kind of had to build some more room for himself, but his movement away from the ball is fantastic, and he's that guy that can just shut down the team's best player. So I'll be very interested to see tonight. I assume he's going to try to match up against Durant, maybe Westbrook at some point, but tonight's game is definitely going to be a test, especially considering how much they used their starters last night, the Raptors that is. So the bench is definitely going to have to come in, play some hard-nosed defense against the Thunder, because it's going to be a really tough game, and I think we're going to find out tonight where this team really is at. I mean, other than the Mavericks, the other 3 games were kind of against middle of the pack teams in the East. So I think it was good to see them get that W against the Mavericks, but I'll be very interested to see how they come out tonight against the Thunder and play. Obviously, the other big news, Terrence Ross. He signed a 3-year, $33 million extension. Obviously, that's an average annual value of $11 million, which is a lot for a player who seems to be kind of finding his mojo off the bench. I don't know. I know people have been kind of disappointed by the former 8th overall pick in his time with Toronto, but I don't think he's really as bad or has performed as badly as people say he has. I think that he's been thrown into a lot of tough situations. I don't think he was ready to be a starter the past couple seasons, but unfortunately they just had no one else to go with at the 3 position. So I think Carroll is definitely kind of taking the burden off of Ross, and I think he's finding success because of that. And it's exciting to watch. He's played very, very well over the first 4 games. Last night was a bit of a letdown, offensively that is, but I think he's just looked really, really comfortable playing with that second unit coming off the bench. He looks like he's more in tune with his game. He's not taking as many, or he's not making as many stupid decisions as he was before. And I mean, he can still throw the ball down, like he showed last night. He's still T-dot flight. So I think it's exciting for Ross. I don't know that he's worth the $11 million a year, but obviously Masai Ujiri saw something. He was gonna, if they wanted to bring him back after this year, I think they were gonna have to pay him a lot more if he had a good year, which is I think what they're hoping for. So I think why not wrap him up right now? So the average annual value might not look fantastic right now, but I think if you look at what we were gonna have to pay him in the summer, I think it's a lot better than that. So anyways, glad to see him back. It's an exciting time for Raptors basketball. Make sure you check out tonight's game because that's definitely what we're going to find out what this Raptors team is really made of, coming off a back-to-back against a tough Thunder team in Oklahoma City. Last item on the agenda today, we're going to go into a bit of local news. I just want to congratulate the Kitchener Rangers on their awesome start. So through the first part of their season, they've yet to lose a game in regulation, which is absolutely fantastic. The team is looking really, really solid. They've played 15 games, won 12 of them, and only have 3 overtime losses. So their winning percentage is at a nice 90% right now, which is fantastic. So kudos to them. But they've done it kind of differently than other teams might have. I mean, if you look at some of the really successful teams in the OHL past couple of years, they've done it with superstars. I mean, Erie obviously had Connor McDavid. London had players like Max Domi and Mitch Marner. So they've done it with kind of superstar players. But the Rangers don't really have that. I mean, if you look at where they rank in terms of goal scoring, they're 3rd in the league, so 3rd out of 20 teams. But then they only have one player in the top 20 of the league in terms of points scored, which is it's a testament to kind of the team effort and the team philosophy they've taken this year. They're all looking to win a championship. No one is looking for individual gain. They all want to win that OHL and then Memorial Cup, and I think this team is definitely on its way to doing that. They've been hurt really hard by injuries, but they've come back. They're resilient. And they're really, really deep. I think the signing of Jeremy Bracco is just going to help this team out. I think he's a fantastic player, obviously a Leafs draft pick. But they've done really, really well, and like I've said, they've got the lowest goals against in the league, the 3rd most goals for. So they've really, really stepped it up. They're on they've looked really, really good in the beginning of the year, and hopefully their goaltending keeps them at the top of the league. I'll be interested to see the CHL rankings tonight. I think we'll see how the CHL kind of where they think they are. Obviously, they were ranked behind Erie. Erie's a fantastic team, but an awesome weekend I think might propel them a little higher than 3rd, maybe even 1st, maybe 2nd. So we'll definitely see how it goes. The Midwest Division is a very competitive division this year, but I'm interested to see how this team responds to kind of the pressure. Everyone's going to want to come into the odd and want to take down the best. So I think the next little while is going to be very important for the Rangers, but obviously great start to the year. Congratulations, boys. It's awesome to see the whole community's behind you. It's an exciting time for hockey around here. Obviously, the Leafs have not given us much to cheer about, so the Rangers, it's all on you guys. That's it for this week's podcast. Like I said, next week we're going to have a special guest speaker. We're going to talk all about the MLB and where we think free agents are going to end up, what's going to happen in the off season, and we're going to talk a lot more about the Raptors, so look forward to that. Thanks for listening, and have a good week.